Hello everyone, welcome to the first gameplay video for the WIXOSS Spring Ceremony, at least from my channel. This is the first round matchup, myself playing Card Jockey against um, Kayvee, I believe was his name, playing also Card Jockey. So the Card Jockey Mirror is an interesting one. I feel like you're favored if you go first, which thankfully I was. So these early turns, for the most part, are pretty standard. You can see me, I'm growing into VJ Wolf Laser. I managed to get 2 Zhaos off of that, which is excellent because not only does it give me the 3 enter, it pulls those out of the deck. Um, my opening hand on this one, this is probably the worst possible way for me to start the tournament as far as I could tell, because you'll see in a moment, considering this is first turn, it's taking me a really long time to decide, because my opening hand had a Lancelot in it, had a Chandelure in it, which I couldn't play, and then I had 3 servants. So my choices were, do I hold on to these? Do I play one and like guard? But like he's gonna play 2 Signy anyway, right? So the choice was really either play 0 servants, hold them for guards, and hope something happens in the end game, or play both of them just to fill up the lanes. So you can see there's servant in the middle, and at this point I realized, if I'm going to play one, I may as well play 2. Like, you pretty much have to, because there's no real reason. He has a limit of 2, so if I have 2 open lanes, he can just swing past the servant. So that's what I opted to do. So I'm already off to a very auspicious start, unfortunately, considering not only do I lose those servants for guards, but they don't really do anything for me. So my opponent begins his turn, grows, obviously, enter charges a Chandelier. Um, he also, I'm pretty sure, will have a pretty standard card jockey turn. Oh, he's actually playing, that looks like that's a Zhao, I believe, the full art one. Um, the early turns in Card Jockey are relatively standard and straightforward. He plays a Romale to vanish my center Signy. Um, Usually, what you do is you kind of open the lanes that you can, and I'm I'm asking him right now because I thought his enter is on the other side than I'm used to. So I asked if he paid the enter for his thing. He actually doesn't go into VJ Wolf Laser, which at this exact turn, it's not a huge deal, just because there's nothing for him to really use the enter on anyway, unless he wanted to maybe good dig on turn 1. So he decides to vanish my other servant as opposed to swinging in the open lane, which I feel is probably a mistake here. But the Romale does get in. He does get in with Lion, but I have a servant, obviously, because I started with 3 of them. So now 1 servant's in the trash, 2 are in my enter right now. Grow into level 2. I really do not remember what's in my hand at this point. Oh, I have a Lancelot, I know, obviously, because I started with 1. So probably expect to play that, and probably go into Love It, level 1, just to clear up 3 lanes. So that is a Cercinus right there, which in my deck tech I mentioned how I like to use that as a handheld replacement. So starting to filter in and actually, give me cards to play, which is really important right now because I'm pretty much drained on things that are useful in my hand, just because so many servants and I haven't had any good digs or anything yet. I don't remember. I don't think I have any in my hand at this point. So I reveal a Triumph, which is just a decent. I mean, it's a level 1 body at this point. So play the Triumph. Probably, yeah. There's the Lancelot. So I vanish his Romale. Do I? I think I grow here. I decided to pay that better because there's no reason. I have a servant in my trash, so I don't need another one. Yeah, so there's the Love It to vanish his other Signy. And now we've got 3 open lanes. We're feeling okay. A little bit of a rocky start, but we'll start the attacks. He has a Chandelier, which lets him pull a Signy and a spell from his trash to his hand, but the only thing he has is another Chandelier. So he gets that. We dodged the Life Burst there. We got... I can't tell what that is. That might be a PRJ. I can't really tell. But obviously nothing of consequence. And then he flips into... I can't tell what that is either. It's too much glare. I'm listening without the audio just so I can commentate over this. So it's hard if he's said what it was, but it looks like it could have been a good dig. Just he pulled the servant into his hand. So starts his next turn. I've kind of stabilized a little bit. Feeling okay at this point. He's down to 4 life cloth or 3. I think that's 3 because he didn't have a guard or he didn't at least play one. So even though I'm at 6, he's at 3. Even though I had this abysmal start, I've kind of stabilized a little bit. I'm feeling okay. I know the level 3 lion enter effect, which lets you kind of look at the top 4 and put 2 in hand and 2 in the trash, really helps to set up your turn 3 and smooth it over really well. So you usually have a very strong turn 3 regardless of what happened in the game. So anyway, he plays a Lancelot to banish my Lancelot, which is probably a common thing here. He plays a Kyusumi, which is a card I did not expect to see in a card jockey matchup, but it's one that I've thought about potentially including. He goes into the DJ Levitt Scratch to vanish my Cercinus. Cercinus is a little too big for Lancelot, but he plays the Haniel to, again, do some filtering and card selection type stuff. Um, but for the Kiyosumi, I've thought about adding Kiyosumi once I shift to VJ Wolf Center. That's probably going to be a big include for me. But it's a really interesting 12K on a level 2 body. But when it's sitting in the center, it's something that I think may have some value for Card Jockey, just because usually, I mean, so much of Card Jockey is Lancelot's to vanish things and control, and basically control the board. Um, so he finally has grown into his BJ Wolf Laser to get some more enter. So now he's got a whole bunch of enter, 2 open lanes. I've got a Triumph. He's counting it out. I don't remember what he's doing here. But this is relatively nothing other than the Kiyosumi appearance and the terrible start I had. This is relatively standard gameplay from Card Jockey Mirrors, or really Card Jockey decks in general. Just tend to be, play your Lancelots, clear the lanes, love it if you need to, VJ Wolf to get some enter, that kind of thing. So I think I was asking him if he had a spell in his graveyard just for the chandelier stuff. I'm not quite sure what's going on right now. I think he's moved to combat, so I'm looking through my deck, my Alaric deck to see. So I go into the crossfade. I pay the full 6. I decided to go for it here, just to get the extra crush, because it's crushing for with the crossfade already is, I feel like, a decent play, just because it puts a lot of pressure on there and kind of forces your opponent to um, maybe change the math on their attacks and that kind of thing. And on my next turn, when I have the punchline coming in, it's going to be really strong. At this point, sorry, we're discussing because I don't know if his camera was flipped or the lanes got miscommunicated. I thought his Hanail was in the other lane, which I don't know if it switches back at some point, because there was a little bit of confusion in terms of what the left lane and the right lane is. In this particular instance, it didn't really matter, just because he could have opened the lane either way and attacked through either way. I mean, my Triumph was small enough, type of thing. So he crushes into a good dig. I pull a PRJ off the top, and keep that moving forward. Um, so, but back to the Lovett instance, as I was before I got distracted. Pulled another good dig, so now my hand is huge right now. Crushing a life cloth already for free is really good, but being able to do it on the opponent's turn is extremely good, because if they do have life bursts, they're much more limited in what they can do. Like in that instance, if he had bursted me and, vanish an Upsigny, I don't have any Upsigny because it's his turn. So that's one of the reasons why I really like to use Crossfade for the life crushing ability. It was really a question of, do I pay all my enter now, or because I do run the risk depending on what I get another PRJ to hand, so I have 2 from the life bursts. There really was the question of, if I do this, will I get enough? Basically, what needed to happen is I needed for him to crush a life cloth that had a white enter source, because if he doesn't do that, I had a white card in my hand. I had, I think, several at this point. So I know I can charge at least one white. If he doesn't crush into a card that can produce white, then I'm stuck at level 2, and that's pretty much game over. So thankfully, he flipped into 2 good digs, which gave me some extra cards, and now I'm Lion level 3, so I'm getting even more cards. So considering how terribly this game has started, it has really kind of accelerated in my direction. I've already flipped into Crossfade, so I've crushed his cloth a little bit. I'm a little enter starved right now, but I don't necessarily need it for anything at the moment. I'm feeling pretty confident that I can pretty much close it out this turn. We know I have 2 PRJs in hand just from the good digs. So punchline coming up, 2 PRJs. He'll probably, crossfade one of them, but the fact that I have 2 of them and I also have a limit of 7, growing to crossfade also is really important because it increases my limit by 1. So now instead of normally, if you just have your level 1 assists, you just have a limit of 6, which means if you want to fill all 3 lanes, you can't have 2 level 3s. It needs to be like a 3-2-1 type of thing. But now that I have a limit of 7, thanks to Crossfade, I can actually play 2 PRJs alongside just any, whatever level 1 Signy, have all 3 lanes filled, put the pressure on, and potentially swing in for some big damage. So I do play the Lancelot here to clear the lane, and then I opt to trash it because, like I said, I have the limit of 7. So the plan is basically 2 PRJs, which there you see there, and then just whatever level 1. I decide for Zhao Yun. I don't know what else is in my hand at this point, but Zhao Yun is a decent one. A little more resistant to Lancelots and Romails. I do declare the punchline to come in and move to attack step. So he, as I expected, is going into crossfade. He's going to go ahead and vanish one of the PRJs. So basically, this is kind of going as I had planned and expected at this point. I think he also is going to opt to pay the extra 4 to crush one of my cloth. That's what it's looking like. Yep. So far, this particular part is not terribly surprising. This is kind of what I expected. But he's got 2 cloth remaining, 2 open lanes. I've got an endless punchline turn with a PRJ. So it's looking extremely good right now that I can close it out this turn. So he's just figuring out what he wants to pay, probably making sure he's got green for his. I'm assuming he's running Sync just because a lot of people run VJ Wolf Sync. I know I'm one of the few people who runs Mirage, but as I mentioned in my opening video, I prefer Mirage for all the. I don't need to go into that again. So here we go. We just need to dodge some life bursts and hope for the best. So that looks like just judging by what he did, it's probably a good dig again. Just he's looking at the top 3. So he can now, I think good dig lets you fill the lane, if I remember right, on the burst. But I didn't see what he grabbed there. So I do just go in with, and this is where the confusing, I talked before how it was, his camera was flipped or something weird happened. So we had some discussion and back and forth. Again, ultimately, it doesn't matter because he vanished the PRJ that he wanted. Like he knew the like I was going to have a PRJ against his Haniel anyway. So really, the question would be if I had a second one, would he be able to pay the extra 4? Because otherwise, he probably would have. Or that's not true. He would have just vanished the other PRJ. So ultimately, it's the same board state. It's just the PRJ attacked into the open lane as opposed to was apart from the Haniel. So at the end of the day, it's not a big deal, but just some general confusion. And this is the kind of thing you don't think about when you're setting up the tournament. So we're doing the actual punchline. I decided not to opt to attack with my Zhao, but punchline, big reveal, and it's a servant. So you can kind of see I've put my head in my hands at this point because I knew with a PRJ and with 3 attacks, he like literally does not have enough enter to survive. But I flipped a servant, so I get 1 attack instead of 3, so he does survive another turn. And now I'm just thinking, oh my god, I started this game with 3 servants in my hand, and the 4th servant has been in my deck the entire time, and then shows up at literally the worst possible time. So now I'm trying to figure out how am I going to survive because I have 3 cloth. I think we know I don't have a guard because the 3 servant I've already played. The 4th servant is in the deck. So I do not have a guard at this point. He's going to have a punchline. I have some big bodies on the board, potentially. I don't have enough enter to use anything right now. The only things in my Elrig deck, I have the VJ Wolf Mirage, which costs 3, which that doesn't help me. And then I have a Silent Assassin, which I couldn't play anyway. So he goes for Chandelier, he goes for PRJ, and he plays a Servant just to probably, again, to fill the open lanes. Plus, at this point, having 1 servant in his hand is not helpful because I can do my Lion once per game to close it out. So there's the punchline as well. So now all of a sudden I was feeling excellent. I was like, I'm going to win this. And then the servant happens. And now all of a sudden I'm on my back foot. I really need to pray that he either can't clear all my lanes or he doesn't flip into a 3, or there's a lot of things that I kind of need to have happen. Um, I don't remember if he does manage to clear either of my lanes or not. I think he's trying to figure out if he should, because he's already played Crossfade. He has 1 enter, so he could Deafening Inferno, I think. I don't know what color his enter is, but he moves to attack. I don't have enough enter to do anything, so Chandelier comes in and trashes the PRJ. His PRJ is, at this point, I don't remember if it's in the open lane or not, or if it's in the Zhao Yun lane. Little more discussion back and forth. So it is in the Zhao lane, so that vanishes it. He attacks, the life burst is a Lancelot, so now at this point I know that if he flips a 3, I'm done, because I don't have a guard in my hand. I have 2 cloth left. None of my life bursts save me from an Elrig attack. I have some that can prevent Signy attacks. So he does, when he cut my deck, he did top 5 on the bottom, and I was like, well, it worked for you, so it's worked for me, and that's exactly what I did. So he flips into a Lancelot. Thank God, because as we all know, I have no guards, no life bursts on either of those cards, so that doesn't matter. So now I have the uphill task of trying to figure out how to get his last 2 cloth. So thankfully, I do have my potential MC Lion once per game to give me some extra attacks to clear out some of his guards. I have a lot of enter right now, which is actually going to be extremely relevant in a moment, because as the deck tech mentioned, that's why I'm counting how much I have. I believe I have 6 at this point. As I mentioned in the deck tech, I run Silent Assassin. So what you will see shortly, as I'm sure you may have guessed, is thankfully his PRJ at 12 and his Chandelier at 13 are just big enough. And this is kind of the scenarios where I was planning for. This is where the question of I was deciding whether to charge or not, because at this point now I'm at 7, so I have 4 for the Silent Assassin, and I can also actually pay for Wolf Mirage if I need to. Oh, I decided to good dig. I don't remember why I'm good digging. I think I actually need bodies here at this point. So, as I was saying, this is where the scenarios where the Silent Assassin is extremely good, because basically I use it as an escape button to, if I'm in a really bad situation like I am right now. So I play a Servant in the Servant at Triumph. I believe those are the only 2 Signy that I have in my hand. I think I have a spell or something inconsequential. So there's the Silent Assassin. Really the question of whether, I mean, obviously this is a prime example of where it's extremely good, but this is a very specific scenario, and honestly, if I had hit my punchline in the first place, we wouldn't even be here. So it's really a question of, and this is where I struggle with, is the assassin worth it to run as an emergency button, like in a situation like this where I have no other outs, or should I replace it for something like a Xeno cluster or Kyurun or whatever? It's like something more general, like use that I would use in every game and get a little benefit, or is it worth it to kind of go all out? So I have to go all out for this one, and I think it worked out reasonably well. I can see the argument for both, ways. So he was asking me what it does and looked it up and all that stuff, but he has no answers to it. So I probably did use the Lion once per game, but it didn't matter at that point. just thanks to all of the silent assassin sneaky tricks and getting in somehow, despite opening with 3 servants and completely whiffing my punchline, I managed to get a win in round 1. So thanks for watching this one. We will go on to round 2 at 1-0, which is somehow we salvaged that game. I don't know how, but thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.